into a Wednesday, April 16th edition of Daily Faceoff Live with Tyler Yaremchuk and Frank Seravalli, streaming on the Daily Faceoff YouTube, where, as always, you can drop in your hashtag askdfo inbox questions. The show is a presentation of Bet365. Download the app, use the code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And Frank, it came down to game 82 for a couple of teams, but the playoff picture in the West is set. What did you make of the night of hockey last night?
Man, full marks to the Flames, too, for grinding through, getting the comeback win down 3-1 and at a meaningless point in time. So 94-point team in Calgary, at the very least, they've one game to play, is going to be out. But pretty thrilling night of hockey. And now we've got the penultimate day of the regular season tonight, the finale on Thursday, and giddy up. It's the real stuff.
Yeah, right around the corner from Stanley Cup playoff action. Let's talk a little bit more about the teams that had something on the line last night. The St. Louis Blues punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it was just kind of never in doubt. They cruised to a 6-1 win over the Utah Hockey Club. Jordan Kyrou steps up with a couple of goals, a 3-point night for Pavel Buchnevich, and another solid performance from Jordan Binnington, who's been a big reason why the St. Louis Blues have been the best team in the NHL for the last third of the season. Since February 1st, they have the highest points percentage in the league. And again, that is quite the sample size. 30 games played in that stretch. Do you look at this Blues team as being one that has an authentic shot at pulling off an upset?
Well, yes, I have to caution myself. I mean, yes, do they have an authentic shot? Of course they do. They've played as well as anyone, to your point, in this pretty large sample size. But I think the difficult part for me in going through the tail of the tape, as we now know what this matchup is, Jets and Blues, the battle of the Shen brothers, if we're looking for some kind of moniker to add to this series, is I just don't know what position I would give the St. Louis Blues an edge over the Jets in. It's not at forward. It's not on defense. It's definitely not in net. Intangibles, maybe, just based on some of the mojo that they have and the pressure. Maybe if you want to reach a little bit and say, like, there's probably an edge in the coaching perspective with Jim Montgomery and the work that he's done, but Jim Montgomery also doesn't have a long track record of playoff success either. He's had great regular season teams that haven't been able to get over the hump. So an authentic chance, yes. They've played as well as anyone, yes. I just don't know if I'm trying to cook up a way, trying to draw up a series win for the St. Louis Blues. I'm kind of having trouble like navigating that path. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all. I will say the forward groups are really close. Robert Thomas has been so good, basically, since coming back from the Four Nations break. If the Jets don't have Nick Ehlers, I think the forward groups are close. And Nick Ehlers is week to week.
Pat, I don't know if you've got the Jets lineup boards here. It'd be fun to kind of throw them up side by side and even get rid of us. But no, I think higher end, it's a very clear advantage for the Jets. And I think a very clear advantage for the Jets in depth. The Jets go 3 deep. I mean, that's really the truth. And I just don't, maybe I'm underestimating the impact of Kyrou and Thomas over the last while, but I just don't, if you're talking ceiling, it's the Jets by a really clear margin.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the chat, like Miller Time says, not crazy. Watch out for that Jets depth. And I think that's fair. It also is a cool storyline that we're going to have Jordan Binnington and Connor Hellebuck going head-to-head the same way they went head-to-head at the Four Nations face-off. Just quickly to plug another Frankly Speaking, though, you said it. It's a battle of the Shen brothers, and you had a chance to chat with Luke about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he was saying that they're monitoring the standings leading up to the playoffs, of course. He said he was joking, I think, that he said we'll kind of cut off all communication and that the series would be really difficult on his parents. So we did chat about that, a kind of glimmer in the eye at that point in time. The Blues were still kind of mid of their winning streak, I guess, so to speak, that would put them in. So it's been a fascinating run for the Blues. I don't know if we talked to Jeremy Rutherford on the show a couple weeks ago, of course, as well. And I don't know how many parallels or comparisons there are to 2019, but it is interesting. A team that was way back in the standings is now firmly in position.
Yeah, at one point you could get them, I think, at plus 900 on Bet365 to make the playoffs back in February. And then again, best team in the league since Feb 1. It's been quite the run for the St. Louis Blues. Let's talk about the other team that pushed their way into the playoffs yesterday. It was the Minnesota Wild, and it wasn't exactly smooth sailing for them. 22 seconds remaining in the hockey game, and it's Joel Eriksson Ek tying up the game. He's got 5 goals in 4 games since returning, but the Wild end up finishing the job in overtime. All they needed to do was get to OT to clinch the point, but Minnesota is into the big dance, Frank.
And it didn't look like they were going to for a little while. I mean, to your point, down 2-1 to the Ducks, that was some tough sledding. I mean, I know at that point you could kind of in real time look at the scoreboard if you're doing some scoreboard watching in the NHL and say, hey, well, the Flames are trailing 3-1 to the Golden Knights, so we're good either way, so to speak. But you also wouldn't know what would happen in the next Flames game either. So look, or in the third period for that matter. Minnesota needed the point. They get it done, sweat free. And then, as you see in our topic bar here, to turn to Marc-Andre Fleury in overtime, putting in the cold goalie, so to speak, to close it out and give him quite literally his flowers on the ice to a wild crowd. It was perfect in just about every aspect of it. You get the win in OT, beautiful OT winner at that. And you have the key players for the Minnesota Wild stepping up when it matters most. You mentioned Eriksson Ek and his impact in the lineup since rejoining. You see Matt Boldy. You see Brock Faber delivers with a couple massive performances down the stretch. And then Kirill Kaprizov getting back in the mix. I mean, I've said it before. No one's really believed it because it's been hard to grasp that with the players missing from this Wild team, this is going to be a painful and bloody first round series. I do think the Vegas Golden Knights have the edge in many categories, but I think even surviving against Minnesota, you're going to come away with bruises.
There's going to be no room on the ice between those two teams. It's a couple of forward groups that have some big boys. And listen, the depth for Minnesota, as much as it's maybe not necessarily names that jump off the page to you, I'm looking at that third line, Nyquist, Rossi, and Marcus Foligno. They've combined for 7 goals in the last 10 games. Like if you go into a playoff series and you're getting close to 2 goals every 3 games from your third line, and you have Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov who are back in 100% healthy, I look at that. I mean, Matt Boldy, OT winner yesterday. They're getting some really good performances from a lot of different players throughout that forward group. I think they're going to be a much tougher out than a lot of people are giving them credit for. I think a lot of, fans are going to sit and go Vegas in 5, Vegas in 6. It's easy. I'm taking this series to go 7.
Okay, so let me remind you too, if we're trying to give some perspective to what these seasons look like, right? Last year, the Wild were incredibly disappointing. They missed the playoffs. They were a many-time 100-point team before that. This year, they bounced back, and they did it, which Kaprizov missed 41 games. Matt Zuccarello missed 13. Jared Spurgeon missed 16. Joel Eriksson Ek missed 36. Ryan Hartman missed 13. Jacob Middleton missed 15. If you were to say non-playoff team to then playoff team and have all those guys be out, I think it's a testament to the Wild, to their goaltending, to the way that everyone banded together, to the contributions that they got from the rest of their lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And the goaltending as well. Philip Gustafsson, a little bit of like a roller coaster year for him, but he seems to be getting back to a really good point in his game. And again, a potential X factor in that series. Just to wrap up by giving the pun you said, giving Flower his flowers. I thought Alan Walsh had a great little a little tweet he sent out yesterday with all of Marc-Andre Fleury's sort of career accolades. And we can flash it up here, but you just look where he ranks all time in so many of these numbers. 2, 3, 1 all-time overtime wins. He scooped up one more yesterday, but I mean, an absolute Hall of Fame career comes to likely a close.
Yeah, and first ballot Hall of Fame at that. I mean, we've said it before, but how many times are we going to see a 1,000-game NHL goalie again? My guess is never.
Probably never. Also, how many players in the NHL can say they were still a part of games that ended in ties, which Fleury has 2 of on his resume, which again speaks to the longevity of things. Let's talk about the team who was on the losing side of things last night, even though they won the hockey game, and that would be the Calgary Flames. They win in a shootout, but it's not enough. They are eliminated, and they are going to finish 9th in the Western Conference. And it was a heartbreaking finish, Frank. And you could even see, like, as they were pulling off that comeback yesterday, and Klapka scores to put him in the lead, even Backlund scoring to tie the game, the celebrations weren't there. They kind of knew what was going on around the league and that they were done. So a heartbreaking finish in Calgary.
Yeah, but I love that they realized that in the second intermission and said, hey, we're going to come back anyway. It would have been so easy to roll over. Hey, we're down 3-1. This game doesn't mean anything. It definitely doesn't mean anything to the Golden Knights. That's it. Instead, they wanted to give their fans something for the support that they had shown all season long. And even something as simple as those guys on their way out of the arena last night, crushing loss. Dustin Wolf pulls over his car and is signing autographs for fans for tens of minutes. I mean, look, I think the Calgary Flames are building something special. I got a lot of pushback on this on social media last night after I tweeted just how much this team had scrapped and clawed this year. They came into this year with 0 expectations. No one was thinking about this team knocking on the door of the playoffs. They're saying they're going nowhere fast. This is the first, stage of a very quiet rebuild, and they're going to just gut it out. And look, Dustin Wolf nearly dragged the 30th ranked offense into the playoffs almost single-handedly. And I think this team all year long found a way to dust themselves off. They started 5-0. When they got to 5-5 in short order after that, it was like, all right, which way is this going to go? We just got punched in the face 5 times in a row. Are we going to get it together and push for the playoffs, or are we just going to fall apart? Dustin Wolf has a brutal month of March by his standards. Biggest games of the year. Bounces back with an outstanding April. So I think all things considered, there's a lot of bright days ahead, and you're going to get a small taste of that to close out the season. Zane Parekh in the lineup. Suniev also expected to be in the lineup. That's a really good sort of first glimpse at what this next iteration of the Flames could look like.
Yeah, Zane Parekh too, especially when you look at that blue line. Like, they could use another really, really big impact piece on that blue line to go with the veterans and Anderson and Mackenzie Weegar. So if Parekh is the real deal and he ends up factoring into that lineup next season, yeah, look out.
He should have been in the lineup to close out game 81.
Yeah, and maybe we'll ask our boy Stephen Ellis about that in a second in the big segment. But let's talk about what's on the line tonight, Frank. It is a must-win in Montreal. The Canadiens, with a victory or with a point, will clinch a playoff spot. If they lose, it is Columbus tomorrow night who will need a regulation win to clinch a playoff spot. But it's all on the line tonight for the Montreal Canadiens, and they're taking on a Hurricanes team that will be without, and let me take a deep breath here, Sebastian Aho, Jackson Blake, Jalen Chatfield, Seth Jarvis, Jordan Martinook, Jacob Slavin, and Jordan Stahl. 7 key players not playing tonight. 0 excuses for the Canadiens to not win this thing.
Couldn't agree more. If you don't close it out tonight and you open the door for the Columbus Blue Jackets to push through, well, then you don't deserve to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, look, everything's on a platter for them. This is a team that has done a really good job over the last couple of months of getting points, even on nights that they haven't had their A game. And that place is going to be absolutely electric. We saw the other night, Ivan Demidov makes his debut, goal and an assist. Disappointing letdown in the shootout to not close it out then, which they could have done against the Blackhawks, but another opportunity for this young team to make a statement. And look, I also think that if the Montreal Canadiens get in, this is a team that's going to give the Washington Capitals a handful. Look, the Caps have not played well down the stretch. Their goaltending, whether it's been Thompson or whoever in net, Charlie Lindgren, it's not been great. And they've got an opening here to really make some noise. So let's see if they can punch through and punch their ticket.
Again, this is going to be a big part of the show tomorrow when we find out the results, so we really don't need to dig too deep into it. But there is one thing I wanted to bitch about, Frank, if you'll give me 30 seconds to do so. And it's the tiebreakers in the NHL. It's just something that popped into my head. I think it's incredibly dumb that the first tiebreaker is not just straight up wins, because there is a world where if Montreal doesn't win tonight and Columbus goes and wins in overtime or a shootout tomorrow, they would lose on a tiebreaker despite having more wins than the Montreal Canadiens. And this almost happened in the West as well. There was a world where Calgary would have got into the playoffs on a tiebreaker against St. Louis, despite the fact they would have had as many as 2 fewer wins than the Blues. I think that's backwards, isn't it? Like, why do we go to regulation wins without first just going to straight up wins and value OT losses basically more than we value wins in some instance?
I like the way that it is now, because I like the idea of not rewarding teams that go on 3-3-3 runs in the standings. I mean, you got 6 points in 6 out of your last 9, but when you take a step back and look at it, it was 3 wins in 9 games really that impressive, and that's just really wins in general too. In that stretch, you could have 2 of those could have been in shootouts. You could have one regulation win in 9 games. And you're like, why does this team get rewarded with points in 6 out of 9? There should be some value placed on winning within 60 minutes. And I think you see that reflected here. I think a better way to do it would just be a 3-2-1-0, standings point. That's the best way to do it. But the NHL doesn't want to do that, because what it does is it ends races even earlier. I look at the inverse of that, which is to say it may end races earlier, but you also may have other teams, take a team like the Blues, for instance, that could make up ground more quickly by being able to stack up 3-point nights.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that the NHLPA player poll had. It was, if you could steal a rule from the PWHL, what would it be? And I was surprised only 16% of the players voted for the 3-2-1-0 point system, because, again, it would make sense. And yeah, if the league's worried about playoff races ending earlier, I would argue the playoff races the last couple of years haven't been that great, as much as we got a few teams coming down to the wire this year. It's not like we've had 8 teams with something to play with 4 games to go in the regular season, and it's produced some sort of electric run. So a change wouldn't be bad.
2 years ago, the 8 in the East were decided in January. I mean, it was like, there's no benefit to keeping this insane system where you've got 3-point games left and right. It's, you get a point, and it's like watching the Oprah show.
It is. All right, let's get to our big segment for the day. It's the Next Wave with Stephen Ellis, and it's brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. You can get a custom ring built and delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program. It all comes with an unbeatable pricing policy, and you can apply for a Charm Diamond Flexity card today. Find out more information at charmdiamondcenters.com. Stephen Ellis, our daily Faceoff prospect analyst, joins us, and let's talk a little bit about some young players who could be making big impacts in the playoffs. And I guess we'll start with Ivan Demidov. Ivan Demidov fever took over earlier in the week. Stephen, what'd you make of his debut? And do you think this is sort of a guy who can make an impact like that on a regular basis for the Habs?
Well, first off, Zane Parekh should have definitely played for the Calgary Flames. And I also picked him up in fantasy, so I was a little disappointed he didn't play. But when you look at Demidov, obviously, that wasn't an Austin Matthews game 1, but that was about as close to a perfect game 1 as you could ask for. A guy that just comes in there with all this energy, and you look at how his season kind of progressed. He played, it was like 20 games where he played under 10 minutes a night. So this is not someone who, the KHL season is long, but it's not like he's someone who went through a massive grind throughout the whole year, because he didn't play a lot and still led his team in scoring. So, he's pretty good. But going out there, nothing to lose. He knows the stakes. Hey, the Canadiens, we got to just keep winning games here. This is an exciting moment for him at the Bell Center. He looks so good. And I'm excited to see what he does tonight, because it looks like he's going to get an even bigger role on that second line. And when you look at that skill, he's one of my favorite prospects. And you look at everything he brings to the table, and you look at Montreal's lineage and how long it's been since they've had a superstar prospect like him. You got to look at Guy Lafleur days. And when you look at what Demidov can bring to this lineup, assuming they make the playoffs, I think he could do a little bit what Cole Caulfield did in 2021. And I think if the Canadiens do make the playoffs, they're going to go on another type of run where you don't see it coming, kind of like 2021. And that's because you got these young guys who are just looking to prove something here. And Demidov's a perfect example of that. So I'm excited to see what he could do, but you got to make the playoffs first.
Yeah. What about Lane Hutson? Likely rookie of the year, turned in my NHL awards ballot. He's my number one choice for Calder. When you look at how his game might... Go ahead.
I'm saying he's my pick too. And this is a guy that loves to just play in the spotlight. Like this is, if you get to know the Hutson family, these are not like loud kids. These are not kids who are going out there and partying and doing all this stuff. Like these are kids who are just focused on winning at all times. And you see him there, and he loves that big moment on the ice because nothing seems to faze him. And what he's been able to do this year, he is my rookie of the year pick for sure. And the numbers are incredible. The skill's incredible. I wrote before the season that he probably should spend some time in the AHL because I did not expect his style of game to translate to the way he did. And that's what makes him special. And I think it was Ray Bork just recently talking about like seeing the stuff that Hutson does that no one else that he has seen in a long time able to do. And, you know, I don't think he's going to be an all-around complete defensive star like Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes, but he's electrifying. He's going to be putting up a ton of points. And at the midway point of the season, it seemed like he found out how to play in his own zone. That transformed him for me.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you about another defenseman who could be making an impact, and he hasn't actually even arrived on U.S. soil yet, but Alexander Nikishin in Carolina. And I've gotten some pushback. Am I actually pronouncing his name correctly when I say that? And when it comes time for the Carolina Hurricanes and Rod Brind'Amour to make lineup decisions, should he be in the lineup for round one of the playoffs without having played an NHL regular season game before that?
So I usually mute KHL games because I can't understand it. So, but I believe that is how you pronounce his name. That's a guy where it's like you look what Brent Burns brings to the lineup, and in Brent Burns' prime, it's like that size he has, that skill with the puck. Like I see a lot of that in the way Nikishin plays, and given Burns has had a bit more of a difficult season, that'd be a perfect fit to kind of replace him in the lineup. I doubt that happens because they continue to play him so much, but he's got that physicality, he's got the skill, and he's really good defensively. Like when he got drafted, there were no signs that this guy was going to be an offensive juggernaut. And I remember I was reading some scouting reports a couple days ago from the draft, and it was like no offensive ability, doesn't know what to do with the puck. And he just had one of the most productive, like, past 3 seasons we've ever seen from a KHL defenseman. Doing that in the NHL is a totally different situation, but he's 23 years old. And I think that's something to keep in mind here. He's an older prospect compared to someone like Lane Hutson. He's got a lot more pro experience, and he's been a leader just at a young age already. So I think that I would love to see him play in the playoffs. We'll see what the Hurricanes do there. I know it's a bit of a crowded blue line, but to me, like, he's a guy who should be playing top pairing next year. No question about it.
Let's talk about another defenseman who could play into the Stanley Cup playoffs, Minnesota Wild punching their ticket. What kind of role do you think Zeev Buium could play for them?
Kind of a mystery at this point, right? Because you would have thought that maybe he would have played last night, and to not have him in the lineup there, throwing him into the playoffs would be a difficult challenge. But this is a player that's built for big game moments. You look at those 2 World Junior Championships. He's played. He won the U18 World Championship. He's won an NCAA championship. He almost won another. Like, this is a guy that has played so much meaningful hockey at such a young age already that I don't think that you could throw him into the playoffs, and I don't think he's going to be phased. I would like him to be a bit stronger, and I feel like if he had just an okay season in the NCAA, he would have probably gone back for another year to go focus on being more physical. But what he's able to do just with the puck, like, you look at what Cale Makar did a few years ago. I know a lot of people have been comparing his numbers. Cale Makar, I'd say, was more important to his team in college than Zeev Buium was, but Buium was more productive. And 2 of the best seasons I think I've ever seen from a defenseman in college. Just a guy that he's so hard to take the puck off of. He skates well. You put that all together. I have no problem putting him in the playoffs if I'm the Minnesota Wild. But again, you would have thought that maybe they would have given him a chance to play last night.
Yeah. Last one, I guess, would be Ryan Leonard in Washington. Obviously, a lot of hype about this guy jumping over to the Capitals when his season ended. Just 1 goal in 8 games so far in the NHL. He saw his minutes fall off pretty hard in the last 2 games as well, going 11 minutes and 10 minutes. Are you surprised there hasn't been more of an immediate jumper? Is that maybe an unfair expectation to put on a 20-year-old who's just playing his first NHL games?
I expected a bit more, but you look at it, he's still shooting. Like last night, he played 10 minutes. He had 3 shots, and they were pretty good opportunities. He had 4 shots a couple nights ago. He's getting those chances. He's still playing physical. He's a player that would thrive in a big moment. And I know I've said that a few times, but that's kind of what we're looking at with some of these prospects. Leonard loves the physical game. He brings a lot to the game that you want to see out of Tom Wilson every single night. And that's someone who will hit you, he'll fight you, but he can also score, and he's going to take you off your game. I feel like we're still seeing that from him. The offense obviously isn't falling right now. Like, he only had the 1 goal, and it was an empty netter. But I still think what I've seen from him is we're still seeing those same good habits that we saw in college. It is a bit of an adjustment. And let's not forget, he got thrown into the fire while Ovechkin was chasing his goal record. So there was a lot of pressure to get that done, and maybe that kind of took away from making sure he can maximize what Ryan Leonard himself could do. But I think what we're still seeing here is a guy that just loves to hit, loves to compete, and that's what you want in the playoffs.
Steven, your top 75, your next draft rankings comes out next Tuesday, correct?
Monday now. We've moved it, but I'm excited. I've got most of it finished by now, and a lot of good movement around the league.
Almost the Stanley Cup playoffs, almost draft season as well. Steven Ellis, our daily Faceoff prospect analyst. Thanks for popping on.
Thanks so much.
Hashtag askdfo time. Frank, we got one in from Randy who wants to know, do you think the Flames go all in next season? They got cap space. They don't have their own first-round pick, but they have 2 later first-round picks. Do you think Craig Conroy will get aggressive in trying to find some scoring this summer?
I think he'll get aggressive in trying to find some scoring on the trade market. I don't think it's going to be all in on spending on free agents. I think they're going to want players that fit their age scheme with what they're building. Think more along the ages of the guys they acquired from Philly, Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee, 23, 24, 25-year-old players that are going to become available. I think the Flames could also be one of those teams that takes a good look at the offer sheet market as well and see if anything pops up.
Interesting. Yeah, could be the summer of offer sheets. Let's get to our daily bets for Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app. Use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. I'm saying the Habs get it done tonight. I'm saying their big guns come to play. Caulfield, 3 shots. Suzuki and Caulfield, they each get a point. Habs on the money line. They were still underdogs last time I checked. It's plus 450 on the same game. Or Frank, I can't believe they're underdogs.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I'm hitting it tonight with the Habs on the money line and juicing it up a bit with a little same gamer courtesy of Bet365, and that brings us to garbage time, Frank. Where I mean, listen, it's not exactly a new tradition, but I feel like it pops up a little bit more right now. The opposing team going out and doing the handshakes for players. We saw it last night, not only with Marc-Andre Fleury, as you see here on the screen, but we also saw it last night with Matt Martin, who's a really interesting player. The fact he got to 986 career NHL games, yet in his full seasons in the league, never averaged more than 12 minutes and 9 seconds on ice per game. That is getting close to 1,000 games and doing it in a very, very difficult way. Yeah,
no kidding. Guy who put his body on the line for his team in every moment. And look, this is a beloved teammate that, you see the respect here for Marc-Andre Fleury. I just love the respect that every player in the league has for guys that are on their way out. Whether it was the younger guys showing up for Logan Couture and his announcement this week, whether it was celebrating Pat Maroon and Alec Martinez over the weekend when they played their last games in Chicago. You see as well Matt Martin getting the A on his jersey. Look, it's really difficult to carve out a living in this league and to do it for so long. And they all deserve that send-off because so few players and people get to call their shot, and to do it at this level for that long, it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff from, again, the Ducks shaking Marc-Andre Fleury's hand, and last night Matt Martin getting a little bit of love as well. He's also one fewer player still playing in the league who still wears a visor. I believe we're down to 3 now. It's Jamie Benn, Zach Bogosian, and Ryan O'Reilly, and I think that's it.
So I wrote this story in 2016 when I was at TSN, and I said I had a countdown, and I said the headline of the story was, who will be the last player in the NHL not wearing a visor? And I said at the time that the odds celebrated Ryan O'Reilly. We'll see if that ends up being right.
All right, that is a wrap on a Wednesday edition of the show. Tomorrow, it's playoff prediction time. Now that the picture, at least, I mean, it could be set by tomorrow's show. Maybe rooting a little bit for the Habs so we can give our full brackets. But that is a wrap on today's edition of the program. Everybody in the YouTube, thank you very much. We'll see you again tomorrow, noon Eastern. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you're going to want to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of our content. From daily live shows with Frank Seravalli to analysis from former NHLers to exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the hockey world on Frankly Speaking. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything going on in the hockey world.